She asked, "Why don't you have a girlfriend?" not knowing she was the reason. The question landed like a quiet explosion, small but powerful enough to shake everything he had carefully buried for years. It wasn't asked dramatically, and it wasn't meant to hurt. It came casually, almost innocently, in the middle of an ordinary moment. Yet in that instant, the world seemed to slow, the air thickened, and his chest tightened with a familiar ache he had learned to live with but never truly escaped. She had no idea that the answer to her question was standing right in front of her, smiling, pretending everything was fine. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of unspoken love, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive. He had built his life on routines because routines did not ask questions. Wake early, go to work, smile when required, return home, sleep, repeat. It was easier that way. People assumed he was content, maybe a little reserved, maybe too focused on responsibilities to chase romance. Some even admired his discipline. What they didn't see were the nights when he sat alone, staring at nothing, replaying moments he never allowed himself to touch. Moments that always led back to her. They had met years ago under circumstances so ordinary they almost felt forgettable at the time. Same workplace, same long hours, same tired smiles exchanged across shared stress. She had a warmth that filled rooms without effort, the kind of presence that made people feel seen even when she said very little. He noticed it immediately, but noticing was as far as he allowed himself to go. Life had already taught him to be careful with hope. He carried baggage he never spoke about. A past relationship that ended not with drama, but with slow disappointment and self-blame. Family expectations that whispered he was never quite enough. Financial pressures that made him feel romance was a luxury he could not afford. Somewhere along the way, he convinced himself that love was something other people earned, not him. So when she entered his life, he did what he always did when something mattered too much. He kept it at a safe distance. Over time, their bond grew quietly. Shared lunches, late evenings working side by side, laughter over small things no one else noticed. She trusted him easily, spoke to him openly, leaned on him when the world felt heavy. To her, he was safe, reliable, a friend. To him, she became the reason mornings felt lighter and nights felt harder. Every time she smiled at him, it felt like both a gift and a wound. The challenge was never that he didn't feel enough. It was that he felt too much. He watched as people came and went in her life, some staying briefly, others leaving marks he wished he could erase. He told himself it wasn't his place. He told himself timing mattered. He told himself 100 logical lies to cover one emotional truth. He loved her, and he was terrified of losing even the version of her he already had. When she asked that question, it wasn't out of curiosity about his heart. It was the kind of question people ask when they assume the answer is simple. He responded the way he always did, with a light shrug, with humor, with deflection. Inside, though, the question echoed louder than she could ever imagine. Why didn't he have a girlfriend? Because every comparison failed. Because every attempt felt dishonest. Because his heart had already chosen, even if his courage had not. Life, however, has a way of forcing change when stillness becomes unbearable. A sudden shift at work separated them. New responsibilities pulled them into different directions. Days turned into weeks without the familiar comfort of her presence. He told himself it would be easier. Distance, after all, was what he had always relied on. But instead of relief, he felt an emptiness that no routine could fill. Without her around, everything she had quietly held together began to unravel. Work felt heavier. Silence at home grew louder. He realized how much of his emotional balance had depended on moments with her he never acknowledged. The struggle was no longer about hiding his feelings. It was about surviving without pretending they didn't exist. During that time apart, he faced himself honestly for the first time in years. He recognized how fear had shaped his choices, how self-doubt had disguised itself as responsibility. He saw how he had been waiting for a perfect moment that never comes. Growth didn't arrive suddenly, but it began with small decisions. Allowing himself to imagine a different ending. Allowing himself to believe he deserved happiness, not someday, but now. When they finally crossed paths again, something had shifted. Not in the dramatic way movies show, but in subtle glances and quiet pauses. She noticed it before he did. The way he listened more intently. The way his smile no longer felt practiced. She sensed depth where she once assumed simplicity. And without realizing it, she began to see him differently too. The tension between them was no longer one-sided. It lived in the space between words, in the moments that stretched just a second longer than necessary. He felt it and feared it all over again, but this time, fear came with clarity. Losing her without trying felt worse than any rejection he had imagined. The final challenge was not circumstance or timing. It was honesty. With himself first, and then with her. He understood that love did not require perfection, only presence. That protecting his heart by staying silent had only protected his loneliness. The realization didn't magically remove his fear, but it gave him something stronger. Resolve. Change did not come with a grand confession or cinematic gesture. It came with consistency. With showing up differently. With allowing vulnerability to replace avoidance. She responded not with shock, but with recognition, as if a truth she had felt but never named finally surfaced. Some connections do not begin in sparks. They begin in patience, in familiarity, in shared silence that slowly turns into understanding. As their relationship transformed, he looked back at the man he had been and felt compassion rather than regret. He understood that his journey was not wasted time, but preparation. Every moment of hesitation, every quiet sacrifice, had shaped his capacity to love deeply when the moment finally arrived. The story does not end with certainty, because real life rarely does. It ends with possibility. With two people standing on the edge of something honest, something earned. It ends with the quiet realization that sometimes the reason we don't move forward is not because the path is unclear, but because the destination matters too much. Before this story ends, take a moment to comment below and share what this journey made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of someone you never had the courage to choose or the love you almost walked away from, please like this video, share it, and leave a heartfelt comment. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need them most, and it reminds others that unspoken love still deserves a voice. Somewhere out there, someone is asking a simple question without knowing they are already the answer. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is the courage to finally stop hiding from the truth that has been waiting patiently all along.